Welcome to the Environmental Innovation Challenge information session. My name is Lauren Brohawn. I'm an associate director with the Buerk Center for Entrepreneurship at the University of Washington, and I manage the annual Environmental Innovation Challenge, which I am going to share all the good details with you today. So thanks for being here, and let's move forward. So during our time together, I'm going to cover what the challenge is, the eligibility, the application components and timeline, what the student experience is like and the prizes that you can win, and answer your questions. So the Environmental Innovation Challenge is all about identifying an environmental problem and proposing a solution to it. So it is a very early stage idea challenge, and it's open to any environmental problem that you're passionate about solving. And as I'm sure we all can agree, there are many problems to address in a lot of different areas, whether that's, food systems, soil, water, air, et cetera, et cetera. And we need solutions now, or really like yesterday, right? But there's no better time than now, and looking forward. And there's a lot of different places that you can pull inspiration from, whether that's from the news or just your own community. There's also looking ahead to COP31, the Sustainable Development Goals, and even Project Drawdown has outlined, I think, over 100 solutions. So you can draw inspiration from a lot of different places. Of course, you might be inspired by a class that you've taken, things that you've read, etc. And Seattle is really kind of supporting and amplifying environmental innovation. Just last year, Seattle created a downtown climate innovation hub called 90 Climate Innovation Hub. The University of Washington's CoMotion is a partner in that. They house a lot of different, kind of climate tech companies and organizations, and host a lot of different events. So if you haven't heard about that yet, it's definitely something to check out. Okay, so in terms of project idea eligibility, student teams can enter with any product, process, or service that addresses an environmental problem. So it's really broad, and again, is guided by your interests and passions. A few kind of notes. If you're working with an outside entrepreneur, you as a student must create your own original business summary and have responsibility for your own portion of the idea. And that might mean that you have ownership stake or the potential for equity or employment. This is a rare occurrence, but we still like to share that if your team that is entering the competition is revenue positive, the revenue cannot exceed $500,000, and that includes seed funding as well. And lastly, if you've successfully completed the Buerk Accelerator program, you're no longer eligible to compete in our competitions. In terms of student eligibility, so this is a student experience and a student competition. So any undergraduate or graduate student in good standing and enrolled in a degree-seeking program from a college or university in the state of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Alaska, or British Columbia are all eligible to apply and compete. Only student team members are eligible to earn prize money, and we will not make any payments to non-students. So here's a little bit more around, student versus non-student team members. So for this competition, we see team members as currently enrolled students, and those students will have a leadership role, an ownership stake, potential for equity or employment, in the idea. And they are responsible for all of the challenge deliverables, including business summaries, the final round pitch, and judge engagement at the final round. Now, you might be working with other people on your team who are not students, and so we consider them non-student team members. These might be alumni, friends, or other individuals that are involved in the day-to-day decision-making about a project idea, and they cannot pitch or initiate discussion with judges at the booth during the final round, but they may attend the full event to provide secondary support or assistance. And then lastly, we have team advisors. And so these are non-student mentors, faculty members, or other people who are playing an advisory role and are not involved in the day-to-day decision-making around a project idea. And these people cannot pitch or initiate discussion with judges at the booth during the final round, but they are invited to attend the reception portion of the final round. So hopefully that provides some clarity. For the application components, the application itself is completed on a platform called Unoodle. The deadline to apply is February 9th at 12 noon. And one portion of the application is to enter in the team member information. So we really recommend that you do this part early. It can even be like step one. Is to complete the team member profiles because you have to have them completed before you hit submit. So the last thing we want is you're, down to the wire, close to the deadline, and you're waiting for team members to complete their profile. So the application consists of a one-sentence description of what you're working on, what your idea is. And we will use this when we announce the advancing teams. So think of it kind of as, a one sentence kind of marketing description. And then the bulk of the application is the 5 to 7 page business summary. And the business summary includes the following sections. So we really lay it out very clearly for you in terms of what to include. You're going to define the problem. You're going to, explain your proposed solution. You're going to share who's on the team and any non-student advisors. You're going to describe a demonstration of your solution. So at the final round, teams will actually be demonstrating their solution. So in the business summary, you need to describe what that demonstration would be like. The market opportunity and customer, the climate impact, and the overall potential for impact. And we'll go a little bit deeper into a few of these. So for the student experience, just switching gears a little bit here first, there are 2 rounds to the Environmental Innovation Challenge. The first round is the screening round, which is you submitting your application. Judges review your application and provide written feedback, and then score each application. And so from there, the top 21 teams will get invited to advance to the in-person final round. So at the final round, and you can kind of see these photos, we'll give examples as to like what I'm sharing verbally. So at the final round, one member from each team will give a 60-second pitch on stage to the room full of judges. So you can see that in this first photo and second photo. So they're giving their 60-second pitch. From there, teams go to their booth, and the booth is a table. I like to describe it as like a college level science fair meets trade show. So each team that's competing will have a table that they set up as their booth, whatever way, makes sense to them. So the afternoon is spent talking with judges, answering their questions. And at the end of the afternoon, the judges cast their vote for their top teams. We tally all the votes. And at the end of the afternoon, we announce the winners. So this last photo is of a team that was very surprised and excited when they heard their name called to win the grand prize. So again, the judges decide. So they're the ones that are walking around. You're communicating with them about what you're working on, what problem you're trying to solve. They'll ask a lot of questions, and then they cast their votes. The teams are judged on the problem they're solving, their 1-minute pitch, the prototype or demonstration of your solution, and the ability to articulate the potential for impact. The judges come from a variety of backgrounds in the local entrepreneurial and environmental ecosystems, including entrepreneurs, investors, attorneys, engineers, alumni, and other environmental professionals. They are vetted by our staff. And please note that faculty, university and college staff, and current students are not eligible to serve as judges. And so I mentioned that prizes are awarded. And we have the grand prize, which is worth $15,000. Second place is $10,000. Third place is $5,000. And then we also have some special category prizes as well. So this year we have the Climate Action Prize and the Leomatics Innovation in Oceanography Prize. We have descriptions on our website, and I'll be sending that information out along with the slide deck before the application deadline. So here are some key dates to keep in mind. Again, the application is submitted through a platform called UNoodle. The deadline is February 9th. From there, the applications are shared with a group of judges for the screening round, which takes place February 11th through the 19th. And then teams are notified about whether they are advancing to the final round on February 20th. And the in-person final round is on April 2nd. That's the first week of spring quarter. And it is held off campus at Seattle Center Exhibition Hall. So I mentioned a few of the deliverables already, but just to kind of recap, for the screening round, the deliverable is that initial application, which includes the 5 to 7 page business summary. For the teams that advance to the final round, the deliverables are a 1-page business summary. So it's kind of taking that 5 to 7 pager and narrowing it down to almost like a 1-page flyer to give a preview to the judges on what you're working on. That 1-minute pitch, and then the booth and prototype demonstration. So here you can see just very few examples of what the room looks like, what the booths look like. You know, we provide the table and the tablecloth and the backdrop, and then you get to decide how you're displaying your idea. For the advancing teams, we will host what we call resource night, where we go over all the details. We'll share more examples and photos. So don't worry, there's a lot more information to come for those advancing teams. So again, for the screening round, diving a little deeper in terms of what the judges look for the definition of the problem, you know, who cares about this problem? Who is it a problem for? What will be different if you solve this problem, and what's the size? What's your proposed solution and description of your demo? What's unique about your solution? So these are just all things to consider as you're writing your business summary, because these are the sections. So for the market opportunity, how many people need this solution? How many would reasonably use it, and who would use it? Who makes up your team? Do they have the skills needed to solve the problem? Do you have any advisors or mentors to fill any gaps in skill sets? So again, what is your problem? What's your environmental problem that you're solving? What's your solution? How will you build or validate it? Who will pay for it? What climate impact will it have? We really want teams to start thinking about this early on, so that you're not creating a negative climate impact while trying to solve an environmental problem as best as possible. So it's just a good exercise to start thinking about as early as possible. And then what overall impact will your solution have, whether that's on the community, the world, you know, certain ecosystems, etc. So a few screening round tips and tricks to share. Again, early is expected. And what I mean by that is this is an early idea stage competition. You will see a variety of stages competing. There are some students that have, you know, maybe been working on a project for a couple of quarters. There are others that are going to think of up their idea tomorrow and get to work on it. So again, early is expected. You need to make a compelling environmental case. So again, this is the Environmental Innovation Challenge. You are seeking to solve an environmental problem. So you really need to explain what that environmental problem is. Make sure to proofread your business summary and application before you submit it. You want the energy of the judges to be spent on your idea, not on spelling mistakes and things like that. And kind of tying in with that, it says forget fudging. It's pretty clear when someone really does not know, what they're talking about, or if they're just copying, pasting things from the internet. And then lastly, again, we really recommend you get those team member profiles completed before the deadline, gets close. And it's really a good just next step is to start working on that, inviting your team members so that they can fill out their profiles. So kind of related to number 4, forget fudging. We know that ChatGPT and AI are now tools that students are using. And so we've provided some guidance in terms of preparing your application for the competition. Make sure to check its references if you use it. Reuse it responsibly with any data. So beware of putting any proprietary data into open source models. UW recommends Copilot or Purple. AI generated work is generally not patentable or copyrightable. And make sure that you don't lose your voice. We have had a few applications come through the past couple of years where it was pretty obvious that ChatGPT was used. So it can be great, as an analysis tool or feedback or kind of a first draft, but make sure that you don't lose your unique creativity or thought process or enthusiasm. And make sure to use citations like you would another, team member or resource. You can just acknowledge the usage in a footnote. And then lastly, this is an environmental innovation challenge. So I would, consider using AI tools sparingly because there is quite a large impact on the climate and natural resources. Other resources, there are office hours with me that you're welcome to schedule a time just to chat, or we can, schedule a Zoom call. I also have examples of past entries that are either viewable by appointment, or we will be bringing them to the next 2 Team Tuesdays if you want to look at them there. We also have a place on our website that we call the Resource Lab. It's just a part of our website that has a bunch of different resources for entrepreneurs. There are also on the University of Washington campus multiple maker spaces that you could potentially utilize to make your prototype or demonstration of your solution. And then again, Startup Tree is where we have our events and registration for them listed, as well as the team formation pages. So I highly recommend you start your application, even just opening it up on UNoodle and starting to fill out that team member information is a great starting place. The deadline is February 9th, and the final round is on April 2nd. Okay, so in terms of team size, we recommend, 4 to 6 team members. We do see teams that are a team of 2. We see teams that are larger than 6. But it can get a little bit difficult to manage a large team if you make it to the final round. So we know that for some ideas or projects, it is a larger team, but think about it like who's going to be the team for the purposes of this competition. And so, sometimes students apply and they're a team of 1, and then we have to really encourage them to find other team members, even just for the purposes of competing, because it's hard to talk with all the judges when it's just yourself, right? But same goes with a large team. Sometimes it's just too much to manage a really large team at the event. So In short, we advise, teams from like 4 to 6. And I guess that said, we actually only allow 4 team members to be kind of talking to judges at a time. And we'll go over those details for the final round participants. But if you do have more than 4 team members, you'll have to kind of like rotate out throughout the afternoon. We are done with our session. So thanks for joining, and I will send out more information and the slides, in the coming weeks.